Do we have any introductions around the table? Okay, well, we have a very sad for me farewell to Eric Stringfield, and I believe he is on the line joining us virtually. We have a resolution for here for him. He is retiring. Okay, Eric. And I just want to personally thank him. I know anytime I called Eric, he answered, even though technically he's not my district. We are served by the Fredericksburg district, but he always helped me. He always got me to the right place, answered my questions. He will be missed. And I just want to open the floor to anybody else who would like to farewell and wish him well in his retirement.
Before you do, please turn on your mics because of the teams. For him to hear you, you do need to keep your mics on, and please be as close to the mic as possible. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thanks, Eric.
I'll start off. Eric, Robert Lewis. Hey, man, I've enjoyed working with you all these many years and hope to see you around. Best of luck in your retirement and have a good time.
Hey, thank you, Robert.
All right, I'm next. Eric, it's Dale. I can say you were one of my OG contacts when I started, and I could always call on you for information. Certainly sad to lose you as that resource, but excited for you in your retirement. I mean, you've been a terrific resource, not just for me, but for the region. Your thumbprints are on projects everywhere today and projects of tomorrow. So really excited for you and enjoy every moment of your retirement.
Hey, thank you.
Eric, this is Rob Case. I'm going to miss having another UVA Wahoo round. I love you and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Rob.
Eric, this is Pavitra. Really want to thank you for always watching out for the TPO. We really appreciate that. And you asked all the questions that would help us. You always answered our questions, always available. Thank you again and have a wonderful retirement.
Thank you, Pavitra.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Hey, Eric. He's definitely missed 34 years of public service, dedicated public service, get wealth of knowledge. We definitely miss him at VDOT, but we do wish him well and hope to see him soon. We're still hoping for, planning on retirement for him, celebration, and we'll make sure that this group is all invited to that as well. But Eric, we miss you but wish you the best in your retirement and congratulations.
Hey, thanks again, Todd.
Just a couple words. Eric, John Mahaley here at TPO. In my 10 years here, I've really enjoyed working with you, and you're going to be very, very much missed here, and I'm sure across the region. But I know one thing you are not going to miss: tip amendments. Thanks for your service.
All right, thank you so much, Eric. You will be missed, and you're welcome to stay around for the upcoming agenda, or you can go enjoy.
Jump off. I want to say real quickly, I appreciate the acknowledgement, and nothing that I've done that was possible without the planning team. I've always had a good, strong planning team, and leaving you in good hands, Angela and others, to kind of guide you guys through the rest of the process. I still look forward to seeing good things from this group here in this committee. And again, I thank you, and I really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed working with TPO staff, VDOT support staff, and all the folks at the cities and localities that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years. I'm gonna miss coming down to the TPO, but same token, when it's time, it's time. Sometimes we choose to retire. Sometimes our health won't let us do what we think we want to do. But anyway, I count it all as well.
Eric, thank you again for joining us. We do have a resolution here that kind of, again, thanks you for all the years of service. We will be following up and sending it to you after the meeting. So definitely, we wish you a wonderful retirement and thank you for joining us again.
Okay, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Best of luck.
You too. Okay, item number 3, approval of agenda. We do have 3 changes. So there are 2 handouts at your table. The first one item is a new item, agenda item CXI. So it's under number 8, approval of consent. It goes with C and then on the back page, XI. And then we have a item, agenda item number 10. That handout will replace what was originally in the packet. The roadway functional classification, there was an update. And then we have one item under the consent agenda, so item number 8, C2, the Chesapeake amendment. It's actually, it's placed in the wrong. It should be in item B under exempt conformity projects. Thought it was a widening, but it's not. They're not adding lanes, they're just widening lanes. So it actually would go under the exempt conformity projects.
And for that particular project, the Elbow Road in Chesapeake, in terms of conformity consultation, it's not necessary now. So when we have our regional conformity assessment for those that are dialed into that, when that letter is prepared for the board, you will not see the Elbow Road Chesapeake portion on that list.
Madam Chair, with that, I move the approval of the agenda as proposed to be modified with the additions and movements within the agenda.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, agenda is approved. Item number 4 is a public comment period. We limit comments to 3 minutes per individual. Are there any members of the public here that would wish to speak? Okay, item number 5 is submitted public comments. There were none submitted. Item number 6 is comments and updates from state and federal agency and military liaisons. So VDOT, I'll go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a couple updates this morning for the group. First, round 6 smart scale. We're done validating the applications that were submitted both at the central office and district level. So we have 32 applications that were submitted for the final review. All of those are moving forward to scoring. So we're happy to say that those are moving forward, and hopefully we'll have some results of scoring early next year. Of course, CTB will take final approval in June, but we should at least know how they're ranked and scored here probably February, March timeframe. I do want to thank the group for all of your patience and your support with questions and changes and edits, et cetera, that we had to make in the smart portal. So thank you all for that. Also wanted to mention the Virginia Highway Safety Improvement Program. That applications opened in the smart portal. They close at 5 p.m. on October 31st. So if you have any safety applications that you want to submit, please get those in before the deadline. Also for State of Good Repair, we do have applications opening up for the local paving program. Those should be opening on October 7th in the smart portal, and the applications are due on December 13th. And for the SGR Bridge program, applications should open up on October 4th in the smart portal and close on December 6th. And as a reminder for the SGR Bridge, as we presented before, the eligible bridges have been expanded to include cuss bridges. So you should have a list of bridges that qualify and are eligible under this program. Please be sure to get those applications in for those projects. That's all I had, Madam Chair, but I'll check with my team if they have anything.
Good morning, TTAC. I just wanted to send out a reminder. We sent out an email from the planning team. Early in September, we had the GAP TA applications open, which is the Growth and Accessibility Plan Technical Assistance Program, which is led out of our OIP office. The deadline is November 1st. So please, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us prior to then. Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to announce two trainings that are coming up. Next Tuesday morning, October the 8th, FHWA is offering a training to localities for right-of-way acquisition. This will be an opportunity for localities to ask questions and get information from FHWA on right-of-way. And then on February the 9th, we will be having a training at our district office also regarding right-of-way. Our central office staff will be available to talk about the right-of-way locally administered process.
So to our VDOT team, could you send us these updates so we could include it in the minutes because we have some deadlines? And Todd, this is a question on the tip-step process survey. Did you receive responses? Do you need any additional?
Oh, thank you. Yes. So I want to thank everybody that filled out the survey for our tip-step process review. As we mentioned at last TTAC and I think at our TPS meeting as well, that we're working closely with TPO staff on evaluating our tip process and trying to see if there's areas that we can streamline or make things more efficient. So thank you all for submitting your survey comments. We're going to be looking at those and reviewing those with TPO. And then I believe Pavitra will be sitting down with the TPS subcommittee here shortly to go over the results and to talk through some of the efficiencies that we think we might be able to address.
Thank you, Todd. And we also have Kathleen at the TPS and TTAC kind of giving some of the things that we can do right now to help the process so projects don't get stalled because as you can see, the public comment period for amendments and stuff are critical. So just a reminder while we work through the process, things that can be done. So Kathleen will be at TPS and TTAC, the next TTAC to talk about it.
Okay, thanks. I do have a question about the right-of-way FHWA webinar. Will there be a meeting sent out to join the link? I did get the asking for submittal of questions prior to the meeting, but will there be another link set out?
Yes, I sent a link out to my team on Monday, but if that didn't make it over to you, I can send it to you.
Okay, thank you. DRPT? Report?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I don't have an update, but I am pleased that the committee today will receive a update from my colleagues, Melissa Fulleron and Madison White on the port screen operator program. Thank you.
FHWA and military. Okay, item number 7 is nominated subcommittee appointments. So typically for the nominating committee who selects the chair and vice chair, we have 3 from the south side, 3 localities from the south side, 3 localities from the peninsula and VDOT. We are missing 1 locality from the peninsula side, and I was thinking that Caitlin with York would nominate her for that. She said she's willing. So I guess we do a vote or?
No, I think, sorry, let me get my notes.
Okay, so anybody second my nomination?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your service. And then I do want to mention that Troy Eisenberger is having some health issues right now. So we'll be reaching out to Chesapeake to see if they want to put somebody in his place for that. So everybody just keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Okay, item number 8, approval of the consent items. An action item. Take a motion.
Madam Chair, move the approval.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Okay, item number 9 is the Regional Performance Measure System Performance Report 2024 Update Final.
So Keith was there at the last TTAC to talk about this report, and we put it out for public comment from September 4th to the 20th. So today we're asking TTAC to recommend board approval. So just need an action from TTAC today, and then it'll be on the board at their October agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, report is approved. Item number 10 is roadway functional classification update. And this is also an action item. I guess Keith has a presentation for us.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you for all of the help you've provided on this roadway functional classification update. Seems like it's been going on about 3 or 4 months now, but we sent what we thought was final list with the TTAC agenda on Wednesday. We were fortunate enough to receive comments actually from the VDOT central office a couple days ago regarding some of the recommended changes we'd included with that. So there were about 4 localities that were impacted. So if one of their recommendations, or if one of your recommendations varied from what they thought, I got in touch with your locality and we've squared it away. So there should be an updated list in front of you. We also sent it out to the TTAC yesterday afternoon. So that is the list we're looking for approval of today. Ultimately, what we're asking for is approval of this list, which includes HRTPO and locality recommendations, in addition to the VDOT recommendations, which really was just filling in a lot of gaps, as you may recall when you saw that. So that is the recommendation we're looking for today, is approval of those two lists of recommendations. Are there any questions?
Clarify, Keith, you're talking about this agenda item 10. So that's the final
Yes.
list that we will be submitting to VDOT.
Correct.
Also wanted to thank Keith because he did have the tough job of going through it and working with all the locality staff and VDOT. So thank Keith for his work. So yeah.
Thank you.
So if there are no questions and everybody's happy with their designations, I'll take a motion. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, item number 11 is a presentation on creating a 3D representation of roadway surface from LiDAR data for estimating floodwater depth. And Mr. Rob will introduce him. Thank you, Rob.
Welcome to G. He's the director of Transportation Research Institute at ODU. Okay. Majid is the director of Transportation Research Institute at ODU, and he conducts research on ITS, connected and automated vehicles, system state prediction, traffic flow theory, simulation, big data, and congestion pricing. More importantly, he was on my committee for my dissertation.
That's what matters the most.
He comes well-schooled with a BS in civil from Boğaziçi University in Turkey, MS in civil from Rensselaer, PhD in transportation from Rensselaer. Welcome, Majid.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Rob. We missed you. Can come back for more. All right. This is a part of the research we've been doing for a few years. It's funded by NSF and got a more recent grant from NOAA focused on understanding the impacts of flooding in our region. So I'm going to be presenting one component of our research where we use video from surveillance cameras and data from a mobile LiDAR to understand flood extent and depth. All right, so I guess probably everybody here is familiar with flooding challenges we have, and sometimes I go to work and get stuck on some roads and stuff, so you have to go around and find alternative parking spots. So this is a picture from ODU's campus, essentially on 49th Street, sunny day flooding. It's quite recurrent, has been more recurrent recently, and based on the projections, it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. So the question is, like, what can we do as transportation planner and system operators and system managers? Can we devise some kind of a technology to help drivers avoid and be safer? So unfortunately, it's difficult because, understanding water dynamics is a little difficult. You cannot have a single sensor to fully kind of capture the whole process. As you do know, we have been installing sensors, over the land sensors, to measure flood on the roadways, flood water on the roadways. But those are limited. You can just measure like flood depth at one single point, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the whole extent of the flood on the roadway, because as you know, like roadways, they have super elevation, there are potholes and whatnot. So it's quite difficult. So what we've been looking at is like camera technologies, essentially. Can we use images from cameras to see how much flood we have and how deep flood is everywhere within the field of vision of the camera? There have been some research, and these are some of the academic papers on this, and people use like different objects like vehicles and stop signs and kind of seeing how much of that is underwater and making an estimate based on that. And we had done some of that. So more recently, we decided to use LiDAR technology. As you do know, with autonomous vehicles, we are going to see more of these. So we put this LiDAR, the one on the on the left bottom corner here. You just attach it on top of your vehicle. And then we also added an inclinometer because our area is mostly flat, and we do want to know like what the horizontal plane is essentially. So we can correct all the errors and things like that from the LiDAR. And we combined this data, then we created a 3D representation of the street. And that's what you're seeing, this color-coded pictures labeled as DEM. DEM stands for Digital Elevation Model. So that's going to be one input. So this helps us understand, like at a high fidelity level, the elevation points on the roadway surface, all right? And then we combine this information with an image that comes from some surveillance camera or a mobile phone image that somebody might have been taking. If you combine these two, and if you have a good calibration process in place, then you can understand the depth of flood and the extent of flood. I'm going to kind of explain this a little bit more without going into technical details too much. So that's kind of the idea. So we have done this process, we calibrated, and then we actually tested this approach for one of the floods we observed on the 49th Street in Norfolk. So let me briefly explain some of the details, and then if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to elaborate. So we collect data in a few spots, all of them being in Norfolk. Of course, we could do the same elsewhere. So the first step is this LiDAR. It scans the road every 10th of a second. And so each individual frame gives you like a 3D point cloud. So what you need to do is just combine them together to create like the whole extent of the road in a virtual environment in like 3 dimensions. So there are ways to do this. And if you just apply the kind of simpler approach, there's lots of noise. So we actually employ a more sophisticated algorithm to stitch them together or to combine them together to create this digital twin of the road, essentially. So that's what you see on the far right bottom corner. So the second step is, so what we do is we scan the road only once. We don't need to actually run with our vehicle with a LiDAR or on a flood day. This you do on a dry day, and just once is more than enough. So once we scan it, then the next step is, if there is a surveillance camera at the same site, then you take an image from that camera and then match that image with the LiDAR image, with the LiDAR 3D pictures. So that's this process explained here is called camera calibration. In simple terms, we are just bringing both of them to the same coordinate system, essentially, to the LiDAR's coordinate system, so that down the road we have a flood in this location and the camera is telling us, oh, this lane is flooded. Then we know where that lane is and then how far the flood extent is. So that's kind of the main motivation there. So once it's calibrated, then we have this projection, essentially just taking the 3D point cloud and putting this on the image. So just two are combined and they are on the same reference, essentially. Now you can see, so this color here is just the depth in relation to some reference, basically. So the blue is lower, red is higher elevation. All right. So the question is, does this work? Is it helpful? That's the ultimate goal. So when this flood happened back June 30th this year, so we installed 2 pressure sensors, which gives us the exact flood level at two single points, one on the left side of the road, one on the right side. I don't know if you can see that on the picture. It says sensor 1 and sensor 2. So we just actually measured as the flood is going up and down, and those are the readings from those 2 sensors, the red and blue lines. So over the course of a few hours, so just, I think it was some high tide or rain, I don't remember now. So what we did is we calibrated our model, the LiDAR camera model, using data from one sensor, and then we predicted what the flood is from the image itself at the other location, and it was almost exact match, basically. And of course, this is, you may say, the sensors are close to each other, and maybe that's part of it. That's a valid argument, but overall, we see a good correspondence when you look at kind of visually when we validate the model itself, like here. So over the course of the time, the flood is going up and down, and then, the blue is the ground truth, which we manually kind of color code, and then the red one is the artificial flood that the model is telling us. We see a very good correspondence between the two when you compare them. Right? So with this approach, basically, what we do is we just scan once, and then when the flood happens, we just snap a picture or a few pictures can come from a camera that is already installed. As you do know, we have lots of cameras owned by cities and traffic signals and whatnot. So if you get a couple pictures, then we'll be able to segment that. We use a machine learning or AI algorithm to segment. These days, there are lots of very sophisticated algorithms to do so. So if you segment it accurately, and then you overlay this segmented image with the DEM model, the digital elevation model, then we can understand the flood depth and extent anywhere within the field of vision of the camera, basically. And that gives us the ability to estimate how deep the flood is, and then we can make decisions whether to close the road or divert the traffic. So far, we kind of focused on the 49th Street as an example. Now we are working on the Hampton Boulevard. This is the 3D model for Hampton Boulevard. And we also had a flood there and a couple years ago, actually. It's much older. And we'll be just doing the same process, validating and testing it on this other location. So, the more the better, kind of to fully test this and evaluate it, and make sure it's robust and works in all kinds of conditions. With that, I'll conclude here. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks for the presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. And I know Sam had heard you at a meeting,
Yeah.
and that's why we thought it'd be good. So I know you've tested it on 49th, you're trying it on Hampton. And I see Ben in the audience, don't want to put him on the spot, but I know they are also looking at flood sensors and the challenges in maintaining and also the funding. Like, how feasible is it? And does this effort complement what they're doing? As you said, more the better in terms of flood sensors. So just want to get a sense of how easy is it to do it across the region?
Yeah. So as I indicated, we scan only once, and then there's no really sensor maintenance because you're just relying on camera. And the image, again, can come from a cell phone even. It just doesn't really matter. But working with surveillance cameras is easier because the camera is at a fixed position and you kind of calibrate once. So in that regard, like, maintenance is a lot easier. And it gives you a much richer information than just this over-the-land sensors, because they just measure once and they may not be reliable. You have to maintain them, things like that. So, I mean, I think this is worthwhile to pursue and kind of further test because it has a lot of potential. And we do have a lot of cameras in place already. I think the only challenge there is getting the feed from the camera itself. Some of those may be, I don't know, it's closed system. It's just tied to the cabinet, like the signal control cabinet, and you may or may not be able to access the video. So that could be the challenge. But if the video is available, then we could definitely apply this. see how it works. Yeah.
Are you looking to expand beyond Hampton Boulevard?
Like for the research purpose, we're kind of focused on a few spots around campus. At this point, we don't really have like further funding to look at elsewhere, but we'll be more than happy to explore maybe even rural areas and other places. Yeah, I mean, again, like with AI, machine learning becoming more kind of popular and getting better over the day. Every single day, they have a new model, a new AI model that can help us segment the image. Basically, given an image, can you tell where the flood is within the image? I mean, that's the key question, and these AI models are getting stronger and better. So we could definitely keep exploring the question.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Item number 12 is Green Operator Program update from Melissa and Madison with report.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Fulleron. I am the Director of Grant Programs at the Port of Virginia. I am joined by my colleague, Madison White, who is an environmental compliance specialist with the Port. We appreciate the opportunity to give you all an update on our Green Operator Program, which has served as a successful model for voluntary drayage truck replacement with support of the HRTPO. So before we jump into all the exciting things Madison's going to tell you about our drayage truck replacement program, I wanted to give you just a little bit of background on how the program has evolved over the years and how it has really helped support the port sustainability initiatives. As background, in 2021, the Port announced its commitment to be net zero by 2040. We kind of track this commitment through 3 distinct efforts known as our Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. Our Scope 1 emissions are under the direct control of the Port, so it's equipment we own and operate. Scope 2 emissions are the indirect emissions associated with the purchase of our power. So January 1st of this year, the Port announced the transition to 100% clean energy through a purchase power agreement we executed with Dominion Energy and a rider we have with Rappahannock Electrical Cooperative. Scope 3 emissions are emissions that come from outside sources outside of our direct control. So example of that would be drayage trucks entering and exiting port facilities. So historically, the Green Operator Program has really supported our Scope 3 emissions, and we have also transitioned that over the years with the help of the TPO to also impact our Scope 1 emissions. So a little bit of history of the Green Operator Program. It really started in 2008. It was launched as an effort funded through the EPA's Diesel Emission Reduction Act. And then following that initial funding, we received CMAQ funds in 2014 through the TPO to advance dray truck replacements and other port emissions related reduction projects. Beginning in 2020, we worked with the HRTPO to transition the Port's Green Operator Program from a single project to a program with several components targeting air quality and congestion management. The program is further expanded in 2022 to include zero and near zero emissions vehicles, zero and near zero emissions cargo handling equipment, and our traditional dray truck replacement program. Since fiscal year 13, we've received about $5 million in CMAQ funds. We have another $5 million allocated in fiscal years 26 through 29. We also were successful in securing about $3 million in carbon reduction program funds to support this program. So on the screen here, you'll see a picture of a green truck. That is an example of just a zero emissions truck. Again, Madison will tell you a little bit more about that program, but just some things to note about our Green Operator Truck Replacement Program. It's reduced emissions by helping our local truck drivers replace more than 400 older model diesel trucks with newer, lower emitting trucks, reducing harmful emissions from dray trucks servicing the port by about 25%. I also mentioned those carbon reduction program funds we received in the amount of $3 million. On the screen here, you'll see a white vehicle. Those are called utility tractor rigs. We use those to just transport containers on terminal. Most of those units are diesel. We were able to secure some Volkswagen settlement funding some few years ago. We have 4 of those in our rail department at Norfolk International Terminals. And with the carbon reduction program funds, we'll be utilizing these to purchase about 4 or 5 more for our empty container yard in Portsmouth. And so this asset replacement will save about 54 gallons of fuel per day and result in 100% emissions transitioning from diesel to battery electric. So I will turn it over to Madison and she'll tell you all the great things we're doing with the drayage truck replacement program.
Sure, I will. So as you guys heard, we've been doing this drayage truck replacement program for over a decade now. And obviously when you run a program that long, there's some updates and changes to how you run it. So most recently, this is like a look back of the year for our traditional program. We recently increased the incentive amount to $35,000. So the way that works is a truck driver can go to the Green Operator website, which is in a few slides here, and submit an application, and that'll be vetted. And then basically, once everything is turned in and we see the receipt for the truck and the scrappage report on the old truck, they will get a reimbursement of up to half the value of the new truck, or $35,000 at the max. And so that is one of our most recent changes. And with that, we also increased the eligible model year for the engine to be, I think it's currently at 07. I could be wrong. That's not one that sticks in my head. I'm sorry. But anyways, that engine year is really important because it's the older trucks that are eligible for scrappage that determine whether or not a participant's eligible for the program. Then more recently in just September, we fully exhausted the allocated FY24 funding for this traditional program. That we do have intention to carry it through until our next funding plus up. But the reason I'm saying this is it's been very well subscribed to since that adjustment, and that adjustment was a little bit behind some of the other ports, watching what they were doing and where their numbers were at. And we see with the cost of trucks nowadays that it's really made an impact to truck drivers' abilities to utilize the program. So we do currently have a wait list. That's mostly just because while there's funding available or not, it does take some time to get everything in order. Buying a truck's sort of a lengthy process and getting all the financial stuff in place. But again, fully subscribed to. It's very well utilized currently. In 2024, given some things that were going on, we did amend the language a little bit to specify that once you receive your new truck that's you get a rebate for, you have a minimum number of visits required for the following couple years. It used to just be you're supposed to still use the terminals, but we wanted to further specify that and introduce means of clawing back funding if necessary. It's never been necessary in the past, but we've seen some things recently that we just added some teeth in there. Then something that we added as recently as 2023 is the Go Zero program, which is a sub-arm of this Green Operator program we've got running. And that's to really see if we can help boost the appetite for zero emission or near zero emission trucks in the area, and really get truck drivers willing to test these trucks. And so we are offering a max award of up to $200,000 for a zero emissions truck, or $100,000 for a near zero emissions truck. Through this program, we've run it more grant style just because there's more to consider here. There's more money on the line. Applicants really need to have considered what they're doing. It's not just, I'm going to go buy a truck tomorrow anymore. It's, okay, well, if I buy this electric truck, where am I going to charge it? If I buy a CNG truck, where am I going to fill it up? So we just want that outlined in the application, and it also helps us collect data on what's going on in the region to, be able to help on our end in terms of making this easier for them, and also just know what's going on and advise people. So in 2023, we ran our first round through September, and we had 3 applications. We made 3 awards this later in the year. for 2 electric and a CNG truck. And I believe the CNG truck either just came in or is about to come in. Obviously, with these types of vehicles, there's giant lead times. So really happy with that. We just ran another round. It ended on September 10. And we have currently up to $1 million available to make awards. Depending on the merit of the applications, we may fully extend that, we may not. And we received applications from 3 companies, including a new applicant. So while that's not a whole lot, it is growing, and there is appetite for it. And we intend to award that money by the end of the calendar year. And then when it actually goes out will just be determined by when they receive their trucks. That's really all I got for you guys. Here's all the relevant contact information for the Green Operator website. If you ever have any questions or ever have any truck drivers that want to go there, you can direct them straight to greenoperator.com, which is fairly easy to remember. Any other questions can obviously be directed at Melissa or I. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. Couple of questions. One, I know you said you had limited CRP funds and you're going to run it through FY26. Are you looking at any other funding program just because of IIJA and the different funding streams? Have you looked into other programs for this?
We do think due to the nature of the CRP funds we received that and the way that VDOT's holding them is it's kind of all lumped in one, even though it's separate, is that we can stretch through until we're plussed up at the beginning of the next fiscal year. So we've internally talked about how much money is going to be allocated for that. And it should be available for the next year is our plans to keep it fully available, and then we'll receive funding for it again at the beginning of the fiscal year. Yeah, sorry.
And then for the EVs for trucks, I mean, you talked about the zero emission or near zero. Like what? So you talked about the knowing where to charge. Is that information you provide the companies that these? I mean, just because it's not readily available, like when they make the transition, how are they planning for charging, and what resources are available to them?
Yeah, so to make your application something that we would consider, we have you kind of lay out a plan. It doesn't have to be like step by step or anything comprehensive, but just hey, how do you plan to fuel or charge your truck? We know that resources are more limited than they are for your normal diesel powered trucks. What is your plan? And they're more than able to seek help from, we run this program through a company called Ecologics, or Ecologics can refer it to us and we can offer feedback as well. But it is one of those things where we want them to independently have the ability to charge or fuel their truck, so that they don't just have the truck sitting there should we help them pay for it. So really, electric trucks, you do need to have a home charging point. The charge life is just not there to be charging it on public infrastructure, to be operating it on a regular basis for that size of truck and the use case it would have in a drayage situation. And then there is some public investment, public infrastructure going on for that, freight charging happening. It's not happening super fast as with everything, but it is there and we're keeping tabs on it. Once it becomes more robust, I do think we will probably offer it as a resource, but it's not currently at the point where we find that to be beneficial to the applicants. The CNG is mostly making use of current fueling stations. I know there's fueling for some of the trash trucks and I think City of Chesapeake's trucks. So they're making use of some of the current existing fueling stations. Yeah.
I was just curious, what does a truck cost?
What does a truck cost? Oh, that's a great question. So yeah, a truck, if you're looking electric, could go anywhere up to $500,000. Probably a little less than that, but you also need to take into account the charging infrastructure, which is dependent both on what your grid is locally, because you might need to make some grid improvements or just feed a new line to run the chargers, as well as the chargers itself. It's going to probably run you another, $150,000, $200,000. So it's not a light investment. The trucks are kind of coming down in price. I mean, I've seen electrics as low as, $350 for the actual truck, but it's a range. It's always a range, and they're changing what's available all the time, with the market as it is. For CNG, that's a much older product. So you've even got used CNG trucks out there. So that range is a lot more robust. I believe a new one probably tops out around 350-ish. Again, don't quote me on these numbers. I'm not a truck salesman by any means, but this is about what the numbers are in my head, just from being fairly familiar with it.
I think you said you had 3 applications.
Yeah, so that's basically 3 companies applied. They all applied for multiple trucks this time around. And based on the merits of the application, we will use our internal process to decide how that is allocated.
Anybody have any other questions?
I assume that you're in contact with other programs, other ports that are doing similar programs. Are they having a similar or higher level of success?
So that's an interesting question. Ecologics keeps really good pace on what's going on around in this sort of program. But everybody's done it a little bit differently. And obviously the incentives in a state like California are very different than a state like us. And really the biggest examples of programs are us, California, New York, think down in Louisiana as well. And the funding in New York is even more limited than it is here. So I really think it's too early in the game to make a whole lot of changes to our program based on other programs right now. Because unfortunately, just the comparison of us to California, which is the most established program, is apples to oranges in that they're being mandated to change trucks. So it's not really a choice for their drivers.
Anything else? Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, item number 13 is Traffic's Commuter Options Annual Update and Rebrand. And Amy Jordan with Traffic's.
Good morning. Amy Jordan. I am the Director of Business Development for Hampton Roads Transit. I also serve as the Executive Director of our region's commuter program. It's been known as Traffic's since the mid-1990s. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the changes we're making. We're very excited about that. But first, I want to give you just a brief update on what's been going on. So for those that aren't familiar, Traffic's serves the whole region. So whereas HRT serves 6 jurisdictions, we are everywhere. So we're serving those areas that are both underserved or not served by transit, as well as those that have transit. Just, some of our community partners, you can see it's quite a variety there. Higher ed, our community partners within the business community, as well as hospitality. And so, our military as well. So the services we provide, big ones are really pushing people to van pool and carpool. We do have a pretty extensive van pool program. We continue to grow that. Telework too, because that gets cars off the road. So that hybrid work schedule that a lot of people still are maintaining. Cycling's been a big one for us to really push more cycling. Proud to say myself this year, I actually rode my bike from Hampton to Norfolk. So how did I do that to get to work? I rode it to the bus stop and I put it on the bus and took it over and then rode it back in the rest of the way. And it was great because then I had my bike at lunch and I could ride off and go get a nice lunch on it. So anyway, it is possible. And of course, to encourage transit as well. So some of the programs we provide with that, we manage the Go Pass program through HRT. It's the 365 program with employers that we work with, as well as higher ed, to give that annual pass at almost an 80% discount off the cost of fare. We have an emergency ride home assistance program. We often refer to that as our guaranteed ride or ride guarantee program, so that if you're in a carpool or van pool and you need to get back to your starting destination, let's say your kid is sick and you get that call from school, you have to work overtime, something happens, we actually will call an Uber for you on us if you're part of that program. Different communal amenities that we've been doing, park and ride lots, really pushing those as well. Again, great resource to, if you're in a carpool or van pool, you don't have to drive around like a school bus picking people up. You can meet at a park and ride and go from there. So some of our accomplishments for this year, we reduced vehicle miles by almost 4 million this year. We added 864 new members to our program, recorded over 200,000 trips, and reduced emissions in tons by 1,700. Our Go Pass revenue this year, we actually added 2 new organizations. So we have 20 organizations total. And then we have 2 new contracts that have already come on for this year. So van pools, some of the changes we made this year, a big one was we raised the stipend to $500. It had been stagnant at about $350 forever, I guess, since 2016 when we started this program. Nobody else in the state had done that. Well, obviously the cost of commuting and vans had gone up, but we had not gone up with that. So we raised that in order to be more competitive, and we immediately started to see more interest in the program. So that was really great. We did add 3 new van pools to our van pool program. It's still not where it was pre-pandemic, but we're finally starting to see it come back a little bit. So we're very excited about that. We're going to actually have a couple more changes we're getting ready to announce within the next month to our program. Naval Station Norfolk. So a lot of people don't realize we actually maintain a traffic's office, a satellite office at the Navy base. It was very tired, antiquated, not used really well, looked like a used car dealership to me. And so literally our team members rolled up their sleeves, got out those hex wrenches, built a lot of IKEA furniture, painted, cleaned, did everything. Really improved the space to get some positive attention on it. Did new window wraps and clings. You can see us there with Captain Days and others. But it was very exciting to celebrate that because this year we also brought on a military liaison. So we usually had a staff person out there. This year the focus was we're going to bring somebody in that actually understands our military community, our federal assets. So we brought on a gentleman, Caleb Smith, who actually had worked for one of our local congresswomen previously. So he understood that landscape because he'd spent a lot of time with veterans groups, a lot of time with the military. So very excited about that addition and the work that's being done in that area. And then we have launched a new bike boost program. So some of you might have seen this. We're excited that we just closed the applications. We have it still open technically on our site, but unofficially have closed the applications. Have at least 10 applications. And what this is we are actually looking at locations throughout the community that we can start putting in more bike infrastructure. So that's going to be not only bike racks, but bike repair stations. So we've taken those applications from the community so we can start looking at that and start connecting the dots better there. You can see my team member Tiffany installing learning how to install one of the bike repair stations. So some of the marketing campaigns we've done this year. January, we have turned that into Vanuary. Very fun little thing that we do to really push van pooling. And that was a great way to also push that messaging with the new $500 stipend. This particular ad where you see it says 800, that is because that was one we used at the military. They actually qualify for a program called TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, I think. No, and I think it is. Anyway, I'm drawing a blank, but TIP, which actually allows them an additional, it's now $315 because it raised after we did this campaign up to that. So they can use that stipend on top of our stipend to help pay for their commuting options. But we did a lot of different advertising around this. We actually have a video. I don't know if I can show you real quick. It's pretty brief. I know. Am I going to hit the right thing? Oh, there we go.
Getting tired of the cost of commuting alone? What if you could lease a late model van or SUV? Have all your maintenance and insurance covered with no long-term contract. We'll even give you a $500 monthly stipend. Start a carpool or van pool for a convenient and low-cost way to get to work, reduce your commuting stress, and even help the environment. Visit GoTraffics.com. That's GoTraffics.com. Traffics is a service of Hampton Roads Transit.
So really excited about that because we did all of our marketing in-house, every bit of it. That was something else we did this year, I should mention. We used to contract out. There was a lot of money that was going to a middleman to do our marketing. It was a company in Richmond. They did a great job, but a lot was lost in that. We're doing it all in-house, saving a lot, being able to do a whole lot more. So that particular commercial ran on Cox, had about 1 million views. Very excited about that. Again, done in-house. Transportation incentive program, by the way, it just hit me in my head. So then February, that moved us into Ride Share the Love. So this was one of the young people in my office challenged me to think about. She's like, there's this whole movement about romanticizing your life. And I'm like, what is this? So after watching a lot of different reels and TikTok videos, she sent me on it so I could understand. I was like, okay, how do I translate this to commuting? But then it really made us think, okay, here's ways to romanticize your commute. How do you make that more special? How do you think about, you know what, I'm going to take the ferry over and enjoy that, or the quiet, ride in on the tide, riding transit and enjoying the Wi-Fi, reading a book, meeting friends up for coffee in the morning, and then carpooling together. Those different things to actually make that morning a little bit more special and a little less stressful. So that was the theme for February. Again, we had a lot of different advertising on it. We were also on the Living 757 show. And so this is just some of the results from those 2 campaigns. The Vanuary, we saw an increase on our webpage for Vanpool of almost 8,000% in hits. So that was incredible, the interest. I mean, just people across the region are like, what is this? What is this program? Trying to find out more about it. So we continue to work with people and field questions and answer that. So we're obviously going to be doing Vanuary again. We want everybody to join in with us on this. And then you can see we had a lot of success as well with our Ride Share the Love impressions too, and our reach with that. And a click-through rate, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with that, but one of our reels had a 3.16% click-through rate, which is 2 to 3 times what you typically get on things of that nature. So that moved us into doing the Connecting Business campaign, which was something DRPT was pushing. And so we were excited to push that. What we did with that is we actually came up with also new military pieces and a new military brochure, really doing things that helped target both the business and the military community. And it was marketing pieces that we needed to do more with, and talking to different groups about those programs. So a little bit just out there with the Connecting Businesses. We're often at State of the City, State of the Regions, meeting with businesses, out there talking with the chambers, doing different chamber events. You can see team members there at the Hospitality Expo. The picture over here is actually in Williamsburg at a business event. They do a really big one. And we hadn't done a whole lot up there. So I was so excited about this event. We sponsored it. I had so many people, because we were one of the sponsors, came up to us and said, oh, y'all are the commuter people. So they had seen it beforehand. They were excited to come over. It was at the winery. So it's amazing how excited people hear when there's a spinny wheel and those clicks and they've had a drink or two. So it got a lot of interest. And we've had a lot of great business connections and follow-ups since then. And then that moves us into Earth Day. Just again, something, obviously big to us to do these Earth Day pushes, and we do that in conjunction with HRT. That brings us into our Bike Month. So this year, just what was new with Bike Month, I mentioned the Bike Boost program, but we also took over the Norfolk Bike Expo. That was something that has been done historically by DNC, Downtown Norfolk Council. They asked us to take it over. We are transforming that to become a regional bike expo, a Hampton Roads Bike Expo. So we're very excited about now being the lead on that. We also worked with Odyssey, was one that we had done some advertising with for our campaigns. So they said, hey, let us help you get an electric bike, and we can help you just do this campaign. We didn't have to pay anything for it. It was great. So we were able to do an electric bike giveaway to get more people engaged with Bike Month. So just a lot of lot of fun and exciting things we've done all through that month, taking different groups on rides. You can see in this corner on the ferry where a group rode over from Portsmouth to Norfolk to have dinner. Just excited about that. Our digital media metrics this year, again, we had on our different platforms over 500,000 views and reach, 1.45 million impressions, and 14,000 that we spent. We did have 3 influencers we worked with this year as well. And that takes us to, okay, branding. So traffic's been around since the 90s. It's a little bit tired. People get confused by it. I have to be incredibly honest. Before I started with traffics, I thought it was the guy that would change my flat tire on the side of the road, and the VDOT thing. So it's confusing for people. What is it? What do we do? They don't understand it when they see it. It's punny, but when you say it out loud, you don't see that FIX. So we realized it was kind of outdated. When I asked my teenagers what traffics was, they thought, oh, do y'all help human trafficking? I was like, nope, that's not what we do. So again, younger generation definitely not connecting with it, and those are our future riders and our future commuters. So confusing to our customers. We want to reach new audiences. We have a changing demographic. We're expanding our services, and I went through a little bit of that and the way that we support people, and it's going to be better alignment with our mission and goals. This was our old mission statement. I don't even need to read this to you. It is way too much. This is, I guess, how we did mission statements in the early 90s. We realized we needed to start with that. We didn't have a vision statement, so we updated our vision statement as a team. We created a new mission statement. And once we took those vision and mission statements, we said, okay, what do we want to be? What do we want people to think of for us? So we came up with some brand concepts. We narrowed it down to 2. Ride, Link, and Go Commute. We took those out to various focus groups this summer, professional and business organizations. We even talked to high school transit riders. Again, I wanted to get a younger demographic. Internal stakeholders. Got a lot of feedback about this, and that landed us with, this is our new brand. So starting next month, you're going to start seeing a real big push. Traffics will no longer be Traffics. It is now going to be Go Commute, Commuter Solutions. You guys are the first to get to see this. So I'm very excited to roll this out today. So what could this look like? Just some example advertising that you see. Commuting smarter, getting people to feel empowered about their commutes, that I'm making the right decision. Before we called it Commuter Options Program, that having commuter solutions is very important to us. We don't want people to think it's just an option somewhere. No, it's a way that you can get around, and it's just as feasible a way as driving in your car. So again, just a look of what those visual displays could be. And then going with some promotional material, what that could look like. We love that we can do the little abbreviation with GoCo, so you'll start to see that in places too. And so just a little bit where we are with that, I mentioned we did those focus groups. We selected the new brand concept. We're very hot and heavy right now in developing all of our collateral, all of our new pieces, new bus wraps, new signage, you name it, everything is changing. So October is, of course, that communication to internal stakeholders like you. We'll be doing similar presentations like this at HRT and other places to roll this out, as well as to our internal customers. And then in November, we will begin the external launch. And that's actually going to be in conjunction with the completion of our new strategic plan. So it's really great timing, because then we are able to take all of those goals and be implementing them into this new brand. And so that is what I have. So I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Anybody have any?
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Very excited about GoCo. I had a quick question for you. How did you select your influencers, or how did that process come about for you all?
That is a great question for my digital media specialist. But some of it, when we've come up with influencers originally, is literally just us going into our social media and figuring out who are the people out there that are making good connections, but we feel like still would represent us well. We started using them. We initially tried it on the HRT side, and then we've used some for both sides of the house. Different influencers. Happy to provide you with some of the names and people that we've worked with, but a lot of it literally was just us grassroots sitting in a room, talking through different influencers, researching them, going through accounts. There's not as many here regionally as there are in some other places, so you have to think about that as well too, and making sure it's somebody that isn't posting things that doesn't fit with the messaging you want. So it's still wholesome enough that it can fit. So
Do you feel like you had a good return on investment?
excellent return on investment. And something else we have found is since we started hiring influencers, we have had influencers without us hiring them doing reels about some of our services. That's been mostly on the HRT side, but there have been ones where they're taking the Tide to go out to dinner and they show how they do that and they walk people through the steps. So excellent return on investment. And I love the creativity behind it because again, we're doing all this marketing in-house, but you don't want to have all that group think. So it's great to have somebody like that takes their own perspective on it, and they're taking the perspective as a customer, as a user of the service.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think you mentioned you had 864 new members. Would you happen to know how many total members?
I'll need to go back and pull that. Our numbers changed a little bit this year because DRPT changed our app. We had our own traffics app, and they decided to roll out a statewide app. And when they did, some of the numbers changed and fell off because of the way those transferred and trying to reach those customers. So I'd have to go back and get those new numbers. So the new app, for anybody who doesn't have it, is Connecting VA. So we are always pushing that. I do love that it is now a statewide app because it works better for people that are traveling from one area to another. We get people that are coming from New Kent County, which is in Ride Finders, Richmond TDM, but they're coming down here and vice versa. So I like that it's statewide now. So.
And then I maybe should know this, but what does it take to become a member?
We consider them, well, there's a few different ways. We consider you either a member if you're in one of our programs like the Go Past 365, then, we include those. But a lot of it is through the app with Agile Mile. So if you go in and you register in that and you start using that, then that counts you as a member and being able to use the programs.
Thank you. I might have you come to Gloucester or somebody and do a little presentation.
We would
a lot of commuters.
We would love to do that. Love to do that. Can walk them through how to register in the app, how to use it, and then just talk about all the different programs and what's available to them. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, item number 14 is a 3-month tentative schedule. In November, I noticed we will have a LRTP meeting after the November meeting.
Likely. And if you haven't already, since I have the mic, reviewed your candidate projects, those were due end of last month. We've heard from some localities that asked for a little bit more time, but we do need that feedback from you all to make sure that the projects are consistent with your comprehensive or agency plans.
And then also on the schedule, the January meeting fell on January 1st, so it's been moved to January 8th. And just want to make sure everybody's aware and that works for everybody.
Another thing is some of your staff might be attending TRB, so Jan 8 does conflict with the TRB timeline. So I know TPO staff will have a few members attending, so another option could also be just to do an all virtual meeting, which doesn't have to be on that Wednesday. We can do it, say, for example, January 2nd and 3rd. That is an option as well. Just wanted to get your thoughts. We've reserved the room for Jan 8 because the room was important, but the option is either have a virtual meeting Jan 2nd or 3rd, which I believe is the Thursday is Jan 2nd, or have an in-person meeting on Jan 8th, knowing that many of you might have staff members at TRB. I know TPO staff will be there. So.
Okay, if there are no thoughts, maybe think about it. We can confirm in November.
Okay,
what we're doing?
we can do that.
So see if January 8th works for everybody, so we have a quorum.
We can send an email right after to follow up on this.
And then for your information, Vithra is going to speak on item 15C.
Yeah, as you can see with the number of amendments we had under consent, a couple of handouts and everything, we really want to put a plug in. Our website on the TPO TIP website has a TIP amendment calendar. Please follow that deadline. I understand there's a lot of coordination needed. So the deadline, when we say we need to receive it, is we assume you've done all the coordination needed. We'll be happy to support you in any way. Kathleen's not here, but it's pretty much her trying to go through this. We understand some projects might have issues. No project's going to be smooth. But what we will do is, again, at the TPS meeting at TTAC, Kathleen will walk through some of the other steps. For example, before you submit it, please check if the project's in the TIP. If it's a group project, it becomes an amendment. That's a different category. So they're just some of those things. So reach out to us early. Our website will have the updated TIP calendar. It's already there. We can follow it up. Just because if you do not meet those deadlines, it's not like we want to stop your project. We do need to go through a public comment period. If we do not, the project get held up and the TPO board does not meet every month. So just keep that in mind. A request again, and I'll have Kathleen come in the November meeting to talk about it. But I just want to see if John had any other additional comments on that.
I think you captured it pretty well, Pavitra. One of the specific items is there are some projects that you have that may be listed as grouped in our current 24-27 TIP. I encourage all of you to take a look at your projects, make sure that they are all individually listed in our TIP document. If they're not, let us know as soon as possible so we can take the steps to ungroup those. But aside from that, Kathleen will be talking to you at our next TPS meeting and at our next TTAC meeting. So just to go through some of these house cleaning items. Thanks.
And was that your comment?
That's all I got. Thanks.
So under announcements, staff is going to speak on the public engagement plan.
All right, good morning. So the HRTPO and HRPDC will be releasing the updated public engagement plan, formerly the public participation plan, which provides guidance and outline for our public engagement efforts. And that will go out for public comment on October 17th at our upcoming HRTPO board meeting and HRPDC board meeting as well. And that will be a 45-day comment period. We'll have that item on our website as well as distributed through our different outlets. It would be very, very helpful if you could all distribute our public engagement plan to your respective stakeholders. These plans are very important because it's the way that the communities and the residents that we serve are able to connect and engage with the work that we do here in this room. So please make sure that you are on the lookout for that, and we'll make sure that it is distributed to you as well.
Okay, thanks for that. Item number 17, any old or new business for the group? Okay, meeting adjourned.